On the afternoon of Sunday, January 7, 2007, 42-year-old Todd Stermer ran from his burning home in rural Lawrence, Michigan. Just a stone's throw away, his wife Linda sat in the family van and watched as her smoldering husband collapsed in a heap onto the wet ground. Moments later, she ran him over. Linda told investigators that Todd must have started the fire and that she ran him over accidentally in the chaos, and the whole thing was just a tragic accident. Despite her claims, friends and family members and prosecutors painted a different picture of her character and the events that led up to his horrific death.
I want you to think about an incident at Thanksgiving prior to the fire. Did you call the police?
I did. That was in 2006.
So just a little less than 2 months before the fire, correct? If I told you the fire was January 7th of 2007? And can you tell the jury then why you called the police?
I called the police because she called me hysterical and said that she had a gun and wanted me to give her one good reason not to shoot him.
She doesn't deserve the hope of ever being free again. And while I'm normally a compassionate person, I have zero forgiveness in my heart for Linda. And I hope when death comes for her, I hope it is as painful and as agonizing as the one you put Todd through. You deserve it. You are an awful human being.
Todd Stermer and Linda Pierce were immediately attracted to one another when they met in 1989. Linda was a beautiful woman and had a bubbly personality. Todd was handsome, entrepreneurial, and family-oriented. They were both just 25 years old, but Linda had recently separated from her husband and had 2 daughters of her own, 3-year-old Ashley and 2-year-old Brittany. She knew it wouldn't be easy to find a good man willing to take on a ready-made family. But for Todd, the situation was absolutely perfect. He always wanted a big family, and as he told Linda, he'd only make boys when they got around to starting their own family. And true to his word, he and Linda had 2 sons, Trevor and Trenton, when they finally tied the knot in 1993. Shortly thereafter, Todd offered to take in Linda's 2-year-old nephew, Corey, after his parents had a contentious breakup. In many respects, Todd was the model husband and father. By most accounts, he treated Corey and Linda's daughters like they were his own biological children. Todd loved coaching his son's sports teams and spending time with them in the great outdoors. Todd was also a top-notch carpenter. In fact, he did most of the work himself when he and Linda decided to build a new home in Lawrence, Michigan, about 165 miles or 265 kilometers west of Detroit. On the outside, the Stermers had picture-perfect lives, but behind closed doors, Todd and Linda's marriage was far from ideal. Todd had a short fuse and a notoriously bad temper. One afternoon, Linda's daughter Ashley said she saw him throw a full laundry basket at her mother. Ashley began speaking up for her mother when she was just 11 years old, but as a result, she claimed that Todd began to physically and verbally abuse her as well. Once, she said he called her a 2-legged dog and told her that she would be a whore just like her mom when she grew up. She also claimed that he struck her with his hands and belt on more than one occasion. But Todd apparently apologized after each incident and said he would never do it again. Once, he even sent Ashley flowers to smooth things over. To be fair, Trenton, Trevor, and Corey never saw Todd get physical with Linda or anyone else.
Did you ever see your dad and Linda get physical with each other?
Never saw physical violence.
Ever see any injuries on Linda?
No.
Linda's mother, Marty Backhuizen, never trusted Todd. She thought he was a control freak, and she didn't like that he blamed Linda for every little thing that went wrong. She also said that Todd could be the most charming man ever, but that he could turn into the worst person in the world at the drop of a hat. She always worried that he'd eventually snap and hurt her daughter. On the other hand, Todd's mother, Sandra, had a decent relationship with her daughter-in-law, Linda.
What was your relationship with Linda like during the marriage?
It was okay.
What was your relationship like with your son?
It was great. He was a good son. I loved him.
By late 2006, Todd and Linda were constantly at one another's throat, and money was the biggest source of conflict between them. They were nearly $75,000 in debt and hadn't made a mortgage payment in months. At one point, Linda borrowed money from her friend and co-worker, Catherine Fox.
I had loaned her $5,000 because she told me that her mortgage was about to default and she was going to lose her house. And I had gotten paperwork in the mail for a signature loan for $5,000. So she asked me if she could borrow the money and said that she would make the payments on it and that it would help build my credit. So I did. I took the check, I signed it, I went to my bank, I deposited it, and I had a bank draft drawn up to Linda Stermer for the $5,000.
So you gave her then the entire $5,000?
I did.
And this was a loan in your name?
Yes.
And you did it why?
I didn't want her to lose her house.
And are you talking about the house that had burned? Or are you
Yes.
talking about it? Okay. Did she ever pay you back?
No.
Todd's company sold hunting gear and accessories, but Linda blamed their financial woes on his laziness and lack of business sense. She claimed that he rarely worked and put almost no effort into developing the potentially lucrative business. Meanwhile, she had to be at her job at a nearby dialysis center at 5 a.m. every morning. Linda also had a horse boarding business on the side. Todd blamed their abysmal financial situation on her obsession with horses, but she claimed the business was actually making money. Whatever the case, Todd was livid when he found out that she had a $25,000 line of business credit at a bank in town. Likewise, she was angry and a little embarrassed when she found out that he regularly borrowed money from his elderly mother. To make things even worse, Todd and Linda both suspected one another of cheating. The already tense situation finally came to a head in early January of 2007 when Todd found out that Linda was having an affair with a coworker named Chris Williams.
Did she talk to you about having plans of leaving him?
Yes.
So at that time, did you still think she was thinking she was going to leave him?
Yes.
How long were you guys together before the fire?
Well, we wasn't really together, but we was done on each other probably six months.
About 6 months before the fire?
Yes.
At about the same time, Linda apparently found out that Todd was cheating as well. By then, Todd and Linda both wanted out of their dysfunctional marriage. But getting a divorce wouldn't be easy because they both knew how difficult it would be to divvy up the marital assets. Despite all that was going on, Todd's mother said that he seemed fine when she took him and the boys to Red Lobster on Friday, January the 5th of 2007.
Todd died on January 7th of 2007, right?
Yes.
And when did you see him last prior to the fire?
The Friday before.
So that was on a Sunday, so you saw him the Friday before. And what happened on that Friday?
Well, my other son had given me a $100 gift card to go to Red Lobster, so I invited Todd and the boys to come in. It was going to start school the next week, and I said if they came in, I'd buy them lunch or Brad would buy us all lunch at Red Lobster. And so they did, and we had a nice lunch and good time. They were in good moods.
What was Todd's mood?
Todd was in a very good mood that day.
In spite of the ear infection?
Yeah, he was. I remember him smiling and laughing and joking with the kids. So,
Any discussion about anything bad going on?
he didn't tell me anything bad going on. No.
If there would have been something bad going on, did you have the type of relationship where he would have discussed it with you?
He would have eventually, but he probably wouldn't have brought it up right then at lunch. But anyway, so he would have probably tried to talk to me in private rather than,
Instead of in front of the boys?
yeah.
The next day, Linda's 20-year-old daughter Ashley called the house to speak to her mother. Todd answered the phone and told Ashley that Linda wasn't there. Then, he allegedly told her that he had just had a conversation with God and that either he or Linda would be leaving the home in a body bag very soon. It's unclear if Ashley spoke to her mother after the frightening conversation, but according to their adopted son Corey, Todd and Linda got into another epic argument that night.
Do you recall the night before the fire?
Yes.
And had you heard any fighting that night?
Yes, so I had heard a lot of arguing, yelling,
my dad had found out that Linda was cheating on him.
What the fight was about?
That night.
Yeah.
So Linda was claiming that she didn't cheat on our dad, and he.
And then you heard more yelling.
I heard more yelling at that point.
Things eventually calmed down and the boys went to sleep in the basement. The following morning, before the boys woke up, Linda drove to a gas station to buy milk and a few groceries. She also bought $10 worth of gas. Linda claimed that she topped off the tank of her Chevy Blazer, but later an attendant on duty told a very different story.
You brought up at the time of the fire. Do you remember the day of the fire?
Yes, I do.
Why do you remember the day of the fire?
I just remember the fact we're a small town, and I worked that morning. My husband and I had taken our son to the movie in Coloma. We were on our way home. We had to pull over for the Hartford Fire Department coming down Red Arrow. We got to like Red Arrow and 681, and then we pulled over for the Bangor Fire Department also that were coming into town.
Tell me what you remember about seeing Ms. Stermer at the gas station that day.
I remember her pulling into the station because she had made an outside purchase at the pump. So the reason I knew it was outside because it makes a dinging inside, and we have to clear the register and turn the pump on. And I remember her pulling in like on the west side of the parking lot and then pulling up to pump 3, which would put her on the south side of the pump right next to the building. So my view was right out the window to that.
So you have a clear view of...
Yes, ma'am. With the old station, yes.
With the old station. And you said you recalled her, you knew she was at pump 3?
Yes.
And you had to look out before you turned the pump on, is that right?
Yes, because the lady that owned the station was always you had to check first in case the credit card didn't work or something. You would know who the person was if they were to like pull away when they were done.
It was a safety feature.
Yes, yes.
And tell me what you saw when you looked outside that day.
She had, I'm not as positive if it was like my mom's old car, and she had a Blazer. So you turned the glass and then you lifted up the top.
Where are you talking about where the glass and the handle would be located?
In the very back of the vehicle.
So in the rear of the vehicle?
Yes.
And you described it as like a glass with a handle?
Right, and you would just, pick it up and then the window would go up to the top.
Kind of like where the trunk would be, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you saw Ms. Stermer then opening up that glass?
Yes.
And lifting it up?
Yes.
And then what did you see?
Her putting the hose into the car. Not into the gas pump, into the gas tank, into the back window.
So when you say not into the gas tank, you mean the tank of the car?
Correct.
And you distinctly remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Either way, Linda eventually drove home, gave the boys some money, and told them that she wanted them to go see a movie. When they asked why, she said that they needed to be out of the house because she was going to confront Todd about his affair and tell him that she wanted a divorce. The boys reluctantly agreed to go to the movies, but Trenton told Linda that he wanted to say goodbye to his father before they left.
Were you able to say goodbye to your dad?
No.
Why?
We were kind of shooed out of the house.
Shoot out by who?
Linda.
Did anyone try to go over and say goodbye to your dad?
I did, yes.
What happened when you tried to go say goodbye?
She stopped me.
How did she stop you?
Put her arm out and pulled me back towards the front door.
The boys left shortly thereafter, and at approximately 3 o'clock that afternoon, Linda claimed that she was in the basement doing laundry when she found a towel that smelled like gasoline. Moments later, she said that she heard Todd screaming on the main floor. When she ran upstairs, the kitchen and living room were engulfed in flames. Linda said that Todd was on fire beside a living room chair and that she couldn't reach him because of the wall of smoke and flames that were separating them. It was impassable. As the inferno raged around her, she ran out the front door and called Todd's name over and over, but he never answered or emerged from the burning house. At that point, Linda said she got into the family van. Luckily, the keys were already in the ignition. She was about to drive to a neighbor's house for help when she saw Todd through the driver's side window. He was on fire and horribly burned, and he didn't respond when she yelled at him to get in the van. Next, Linda claimed that she got out of the van and tried to help Todd, but there was nothing she could do because he was burned so badly. Because she didn't have her phone, her only option was to get back in the van and drive to a neighbor's house for help. But the weather that day was a chilly mix of rain and snow, and the van's tires were worn, and she couldn't get traction on the muddy driveway. Before long, a number of neighbors rushed to the house after seeing the smoke and flames and hearing about the fire on a police scanner. Ken Thompson and his wife Kim were among the first to arrive.
So, what did you do when you saw the smoke coming out of the windows, you see the smoke coming out of the chimney, you and your wife get out of your vehicle? What do you do then?
Well, I saw Linda in the driveway, and I quickly went to Linda. I was concerned for the children, and, I said, Linda, where's the children? And at first she was kind of incoherent, and I thought that the children would be inside. So I was kind of headed for the door, and she said, no, there's nobody in there. The children, I forget where she said they were.
And do you recall the clothing that Miss Stermer had on?
I do.
Okay. Could you describe what you saw?
She had a t-shirt, gym shorts, and white socks. Just socks, no shoes.
And shorts? Mm-hmm. And a t-shirt?
Yes.
What would you estimate, just based upon your feelings of the weather then, what would you estimate the temperature to be at that time when you arrived?
At that time when I saw Linda, I don't know. I'm not sure. I couldn't say. But the temperature was dropping fast.
Dropping fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
It started out as rain, and then it started to spit snow-rain mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moments later, they found Todd lying on his back beside the house. He was barely clothed, horribly burned, and unable to speak, but miraculously, he was still alive. Linda was on top of him, sobbing hysterically when Fire Chief Steve Leach arrived.
Tell me what you did.
When I first pulled in the driveway, when I got to turned up the drive, I noticed the house. Well, I'd already noticed you could see the flame from pretty much the smoke and heavy smoke from my house. But as soon as I pulled into the drive, I noticed Mike Matheny standing at the edge of the house, waving towards me to come to where he was standing. And when I pulled up there, it was Mike and two people laying on the ground, which turned out to be Todd and Linda on top of him.
And when you say she was on top of him, what do you mean on top of him?
So like say he was laying on his back and she was literally on top.
Crosswise?
Crosswise, hysterical, but,
Was she by his head and chest area, or where was she on his body?
Head and chest area.
So once you arrive there and you see these other folks and you get Linda off of Todd, what do you do?
I started looking him over and trying to assess what was going on. He was badly burnt, but he also was bleeding a little bit, which in my brain I was pulling up, and thinking, okay, fire, but it wasn't. It kind of threw me back for a second to notice the blood. He had some blood in his mouth and things. It was also burnt, but it was, there was blood on him as well. And that it just kind of threw me back for a second to try to figure out what was going on here.
And trying to figure out what type of aid to administer?
Yes, ma'am.
Emergency medical technicians got to the Stermer home a few minutes later. By then, Todd had gone into cardiac arrest, and they couldn't use the defibrillator to jumpstart his heart because the pads wouldn't stick to his burned skin. Sadly, 42-year-old Todd Stermer was pronounced dead at the scene. At the time, he and Linda had been married for 13 years. In the early going, Linda told Van Buren County Sheriff's detectives that she didn't know how the fire started or why Todd was covered in blood and had a number of deep lacerations on his head. Tire tracks in the yard and blood on the van's front fender proved that she ran Todd over shortly after he emerged from the burning house. When confronted with this evidence, she said she didn't remember running him over, but that in the chaos she may have done it unintentionally. That evening, investigators also found a gas can in the front yard, and it seemed a little out of place. As for the fire, Linda said that Todd kept an oil lamp in the house and that he may have knocked it off the half wall between the living room and kitchen that day. But when talking to her friend Kim Thompson, she gave two entirely different scenarios.
Did you ever ask her about what had happened?
Yes.
And do you remember what she told you when you first asked her?
I don't remember the order of what we were told, but it did change each time. And one time it was she had given him, he had a cold, and she had given him some Benadryl, and she thought that maybe he was drowsy or sleeping from that, and that when whatever happened, he couldn't get out.
Did she say where he was?
In his chair in the living room.
The story changed a little bit?
Yes.
Do you recall then the next version or what the next thing she told you?
One of the other things she had said was that he was smoking pot, and she thinks that he caught himself on fire.
During the investigation, detectives also questioned the gas station employee who was on duty the morning of the fire.
And at that point, you couldn't see what she was pumping into, is that correct?
No, I could not.
But you distinctly saw her putting the hose through the half window into the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall what you saw after that?
No, because I'd gone about what else I was doing. You know, she was done out there, and then she had came back into the station, though, after that.
So when one transaction is done, are you alerted at that time?
Yes, it dings that it's all done.
So then, did you hear that ding?
Yes.
And did you see her at that point?
I saw her outside of the station.
And then what did she do after that?
She came into the station then.
And then what did she do in the station?
She had made a comment. I remember we both were speaking to each other about the fact that she was happy that the lady that owned the station carried things in the store that, you know, like breakfast food, you know, food of any type or whatever. And she purchased a few things, and then she was done.
Do you recall what she purchased?
No. Mm-mm.
Linda claimed that she pumped the gas into her SUV and not into the gas can found in the yard after the fire. But at just over $2 a gallon, $10 is exactly what it would have taken to fill the standard 5-gallon gas container. Later, investigators found traces of gasoline on Todd's sweatpants. According to the fire investigator, the burn pattern in the home also indicated that gasoline had been used as an accelerant.
So again, we just talked about you considered the burns on Todd Stermer. How is that relevant to your determination of an intentionally set fire?
We know that Todd, with the burns on Todd, I know he is at or near the area of origin. And with the gasoline, positive for gasoline on his sweatpants, that says there is gasoline at or near the area of origin. Now, the gasoline at the area of origin actually fits the description of a fast-moving fire, where instead of a small individual area, the whole area is on fire at the same time.
Detectives also looked into the Stermers' finances and their alleged infidelities. Like before, Linda blamed their money problems on Todd and denied having an affair with Chris Williams.
Yes, because a coworker gave her my phone number without my permission.
A coworker gave your phone number to Ms. Stermer without your permission?
Yes.
Did he tell you he did?
After the fact.
And then what happened?
She just started blowing up my phone.
So she started blowing up your phone?
And stalking me.
And when you say she was stalking, what do you mean?
Well, I got out of work one day and stopped at the grocery store and she was there. In the parking lot.
At the grocery store?
Yes.
And did you talk to her at the grocery store?
Briefly.
Do you remember what you said in the grocery store?
No, I do not.
And when she would call, would you answer the phone?
Yeah.
And so, at some point, did your relationship turn physical?
Yes.
And when did that start turning physical?
I say maybe into, well, she stalked me for a couple of months. I say maybe about a month and a half. It was kind of weird.
About a month and a half into spending time together?
Yeah.
How often were you spending time together?
I can't really say because we worked together and she would show up after work. So I say maybe a couple times a week or something like that.
And would that be times, a couple of times you'd see her outside of work?
Yes.
And then you'd see each other probably almost every day at work?
At work.
Okay.
In the days after the fire, Trevor and Trenton Stermer and their adopted brother Corey began to suspect that their father's death wasn't an accident. They never understood how their mother made it out of the burning home, but that their athletic and physically fit father did not. Another big red flag was that Linda refused to give them specific details about the events leading up to Todd's death. According to Trenton, she changed her story multiple times.
Did Linda tell you what happened when you talked after the fire?
Yeah, she gave a few different stories over the next 2 years.
Different stories? Do you recall how they were different?
Just what she did, where she went, changed.
How did they change?
At one point she said that she went upstairs and she saw a fire and couldn't see anything, and I think she said that she couldn't make it up the stairs at one point, and that there's too much smoke or there's fire already before that. And where she went out of the house seemed to change.
What did she tell you on where she left the house?
At one point she said that she went back downstairs and went outside the back door, and I feel like at a different point she said that she went out the front door. But at any time that I would ask, she would get either hysterical or angry and would attack me at times.
So when you asked her about the differences in the story, is that when she attacked you?
Yeah.
All told, detectives spent 2 years investigating the fire and Todd's death. Then, in early 2009, they arrested Linda and charged her with arson and murder. The trial began on January 5th of 2010. Linda was eventually convicted of both charges and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She spent 8 years in state prison, but her conviction was overturned in 2018 after her attorneys convinced the court that she did not have a fair trial. To Todd's distraught family, it looked like Linda would never spend another day behind bars, even though they believe she murdered Todd and torched the home to cover up her heinous crime. Linda spent the next 6 years as a free woman, but was arrested again in late 2024 and once again charged with arson and first-degree murder. With Van Buren County Judge Kathleen Brickley presiding, the trial began in the spring of 2025. Linda's former friend and co-worker Catherine Fox also testified for the state.
She was very unhappy in her marriage.
She said she wanted out of the marriage?
Yeah, she said she wanted out of the marriage.
Did you see any evidence of any physical abuse on Ms. Stermer at all?
Not once, not ever.
At some point, did she talk to you about Chris Williams?
She did.
And what did she tell you about Chris Williams?
They were having a relationship.
Do you know when that started?
I am not sure. I don't know how long after it started before she talked to me about it.
Was it shortly after you started working there?
It was at least a couple of months.
And what did she say about Chris Williams?
That he was extremely important to her.
How did she describe her feelings for him?
She wanted to be with him.
Do you recall ever overhearing any conversations between her and Mr. Williams?
Yes, they talked pretty much every night on the way home on the phone.
In your car?
She usually drove.
So she talked as you guys were driving back and forth?
Yes.
Did she say if this relationship was sexual?
She did.
What'd she say about it?
She said it was the best lover she ever had.
Did you know where Mr. Williams lived?
I had occasion to go there with Linda. I never went inside the house, but I did sit in the car while she went inside after work a few times.
How long were you sitting outside?
Half hour, 45 minutes.
Did she say what she was doing inside?
It seemed implied. I didn't ask.
And she told you that's Chris's house?
Yes.
I want you to think about an incident at Thanksgiving prior to the fire. Did you call the police?
I did. That was in 2006.
So just a little less than 2 months before the fire, correct? If I told you the fire was
Yes.
January 7th
Yes.
of 2007? And can you tell the jury then why you called the police?
I called the police because she called me hysterical and said that she had a gun and wanted me to give her one good reason not to shoot him.
Not to shoot him?
Not to shoot Todd. And I did my best to calm her down, but at the end of the conversation, I still wasn't comfortable that things had calmed down, and so I called the police.
Did she ever say anything about Todd being run over by a van?
She did.
What'd she say?
She told me that she had run over him with the van.
Did she tell you why?
No. Well, she said it was smoky and she didn't see him, that he had run out of the house, and she was trying to get in the van to go for help.
Later, Todd's mother, Sandra, told the court that Linda had changed her story multiple times immediately after the fire.
Do you remember the first time that you tried talking to her about what happened?
Yeah. I asked what happened. Basically, she said she was in the basement and doing laundry, and that Todd hollered at her to get out or something. There was 3 different stories that I heard within 2 days about how she got out of the house. So I'm not really, they kind of mix up in my head now after 18 years. It's kind of, but one of them was that she went out through the slider and ran around the house and tried to get in the front door, and there was too much fire. Then she told me another time that she came up the stairs and there was too much. And so she went back down now. And then the third one was she got up there, but she couldn't get in the living room where Todd was at. And so she went out through the front door.
Did she tell you where Todd was at the time?
Well, she said it, first of all, she told me, he was in the living room and he was on fire. So.
And she told you he was in the living room when she saw
and then
him?
you got to remember, we'd get just to a certain point, and then she'd start getting all hysterical or whatever. So I'd just back off. I wasn't being confrontational anyway. I just wanted to know what happened.
Did she tell you anything about a fire in the fireplace?
Yes, she said there was a fire. He was sitting in his chair up there and had a fire in the fireplace.
And then she said, I believe, I just want to be clear, you said that she yelled, or that she heard Todd yell something?
For her to get out. At one time, that was one thing she told me. So.
And then she tried to get up the steps, and that was when she couldn't get out?
Well, like I said, she told me 3 different ways she got out of the house, so I don't know which time was which.
On those conversations after the fire, did she ever talk to you about her filing for divorce or wanting a divorce?
Not to me.
The fire investigator who inspected the house testified that the evidence found at the scene did not support Linda's version of the events.
This is photo 19. This is the main floor fireplace. Before I talk about this, I just want to go to 20, photo 20 real quick. Yes, that's photo 20. I documented what was inside the fireplace, and there is burnt wood in the fireplace. So that tells me there may have been a fire. Now obviously, is it possible that fire debris during the collapse got in there? It's possible, but unlikely, because that's the collapse is going to come straight down versus jump sideways. This is likely it's probable that there was a fire in that main floor fireplace. So looking at the damage profile, specifically the lack of damage there, that's significant in considering this as a chimney fire or a fireplace fire. Additionally, if we look at photo 21, this is the chimney pipe that I collected from inside the structure. Later, yesterday we talked about excavating. Later I would excavate then it would be the basement floor, but had the debris from both the basement, main floor, and the roof directly above in this area. This chimney pipe was located. I moved it out and I put it here. I examined it and nothing extraordinary came to my attention. Obviously, if you look at it, it's bent, it's burned, but remember there was a whole house burning on top of it at one point. So, and the collapse happened, that's going to disform the metal, disform the pipe, and it was under burning roof sections for a while. So there is fire damage. But that being, what I discovered is there was nothing obvious to me that would indicate there was something wrong with that chimney. And that also states for the fireplace itself, I didn't find anything obvious with the metal fireplace box that would show that it malfunctioned or there was something wrong with it. And that backs up with the lack of burning of the wooden stud members around it. At that point, I could eliminate the fireplace and chimney as a potential ignition source.
And so we've talked about a log rolling out, and you have eliminated that. What is your next hypothesis that you went to?
One of the hypotheses I considered was during the initial interviews with Linda Stermer, she mentioned that there was some oil candle on I believe it was the half wall between the living room and the dining room on the north side. Again, I considered that. Again, that is a small fire source. I don't know what this oil candle looked like. I'm using generalization terms. I'm assuming it is a normal, could be as much as a lantern, an oil lantern, or a smaller candle that's from.
Well then, yeah, he's describing what are possible oil lanterns that he's encountered, so I think he's even said he doesn't know what it was, but he's just describing what they could be. I
was given information that there was an oil candle in the area. Do not know the size or makeup of it. But if this candle broke or tipped over, again, the fire is going to be relatively small. And it's going to be contained over towards the area of where it was located, which is the half wall towards the north side of the living room. That did not, again, that also has a hard time meeting the challenge of going undiscovered until it was a very large fire.
Well, let's go this way. Does the statement of Linda Stermer that you reviewed factor into this as well?
Linda Stermer's statement is very important to my factor.
Why is that?
Because Linda Stermer was at the scene. She was in the house. She was able to give statements. Witness statements are very important. Her statement was that she was in the basement. She heard Todd upstairs scream. She ran upstairs and she saw the living room on fire. Subsequent statements, that was the initial statement I believe she gave the detective route. Then later statements were more specific. It says, started the same, in the basement, heard Todd scream, ran up the stairs, described seeing the recliner towards the north side of the living room on fire. Todd was towards the south in the living room with his upper torso on fire. And there was fire on the floor between Todd and the recliner. That description of a very quick starting fire, of she's in the basement, she's awake, and she hears a scream, that would be in. Then she goes upstairs and finds this large fire, not concentrated in one area, but it's spread in two areas across the room with a connecting fire between.
As poignant and relevant as the early testimony was, it wasn't as emotional as the testimony provided by Todd and Linda's sons, Trenton, Trevor, and Corey.
Do you remember the night before the fire?
Not particularly.
Anything strike you that you remember?
Arguing.
Who was arguing?
My father and Linda.
Do you recall what they were arguing about?
Not at that time, I wasn't aware.
Do you just remember the arguing the night before, or had it been going on?
It had been going on leading up to that night, yeah.
Did you ever see your dad and Linda get physical with each other?
No.
Ever see any injuries on Linda?
No, never.
Had your dad and Linda talked about divorce at all?
Yes.
Do you recall how much or how often they had talked about divorce?
Leading up to that, there was talk of them separating and who I'd like to go with.
Who asked you that?
My father.
Before you left, did Linda tell you anything about what was happening?
When we went upstairs, I believe she told us that they were working out the details of getting divorced.
Did she say anything about her moving or leaving?
She said something about her going to stay with her sister-in-law, Kim, maybe.
So you said you went upstairs, so you did not go out the basement?
No, definitely not.
So you went upstairs?
Yes.
When you went upstairs, did you see your father?
I did for a second.
Where was he?
Sitting in his chair, I believe.
And the chair was where?
In the living room.
Did you see his face?
I did, yes.
And was he awake? Was he sleeping?
Seemed like he was sleeping, potentially.
What was common practice in your house regarding saying goodbye?
Always goodbye, love you, hug, kiss.
And you were not able to do that day, were you?
No.
Do you remember the night before the fire?
Yes, I do.
And what do you remember about the night before the fire?
Sometime in the evening, maybe 7 o'clock, an argument broke out between my parents. It was a really heated argument. We were instructed, I would have been staying in my bedroom upstairs in the loft area, but I was instructed to go down in the basement with my brothers because it was such a heated argument. And
do you recall what it was about?
yes,
What was it about?
well, we could hear very clearly the argument. I mean, it was loud and you could just hear through the whole house down there. But started with finance and some issues that they were having, particularly Linda's horses and how that was draining our family. There was a lot of, the argument was spent about infidelities on Linda's part.
Do you remember how late into the night that arguing happened and that fighting?
I would say 10:30 p.m.
Can you explain to the jury why you have a different last name?
My biological dad had dropped me off at my aunt and uncle's when I was about 2 years old, and I grew up with them and they raised me.
So who raised you?
My aunt and uncle,
And what are their names?
Linda and Todd Stermer.
And did you think of them as your parents?
Yes, I called them Mom and Dad.
That night that you heard this fighting between Linda and your dad, did Linda come downstairs to the basement?
Not during that night that I know of.
She didn't come down and watch TV?
Not that I know of, no.
She didn't come down and snuggle with you on the couch?
No.
At any time that night before the fire, did you hear your dad come downstairs?
Not that I recall.
Didn't hear him go into the furnace room?
No. She came into the room, into my bedroom, sat on the end of my bed, and then I sat up, and she told me that I needed to help my brothers get around and get dressed real fast, and she wanted me to take them out to a movie and breakfast that morning.
Did she say why?
She told me that they were going to get divorced and they were going to decide how to split everything up.
Did she tell you what this fight was about?
She didn't bring up the fight at that point. She just told me that they were getting divorced and wanted to decide how to split everything up.
And she told you to go where?
She told me to take my brothers out to breakfast and a movie.
Did she give you any money?
Yes, she gave me some money.
Do you remember how much?
No, I can't recall.
So what did you do?
I asked her why we needed to sneak out, and she said that she wanted our dad to think we were still in the basement.
Did she say why she wanted your dad to think that?
Yes.
What'd she say?
She said that if he thought we were still in the basement, excuse me, that they wouldn't argue as much, and that it would be easier to figure out how to get through the divorce, stuff that they were going to go through.
So because of that, she wanted you to sneak out?
Yes. Did
she tell you not to talk to your dad?
Yes.
Did you go out the basement door or or a different door?
No, we went up through the upstairs door.
So when you went upstairs, what did you see upstairs?
I walked upstairs and my two brothers were behind me, and Linda was on the side blocking the living room, and I kind of glanced over there as I was leaving, and I looked like I saw my dad just sitting in the chair with his arm kind of resting on the side.
Did you see his face?
No.
Did you try to talk to him?
I did not, no.
Did you see any of your brothers go and try to talk to him?
Yeah, so Trenton was behind me. He tried to go around her and say goodbye, and she blocked him and wouldn't let him go over there.
And you saw this?
Yes.
So what happened when she was blocking?
I said, Trenton, come on, let's just go. And we both walked towards the door.
What was the common practice at your house as far as talking to your parents before you left?
We would always give our parents a hug and kiss goodbye and tell them that we loved them.
Did you do that every time you left?
Every time, yes. It was a general rule that we couldn't go to a friend's house, we couldn't go anywhere unless we had said goodbye.
You didn't get to say goodbye that day, did you?
No.
During closing arguments, the prosecution claimed that Linda drugged and beat Todd before lighting the fire that consumed their home, and that she intentionally ran him over with the van just seconds after he exited the house. On the other hand, the defense claimed that she didn't commit arson, that she didn't murder Todd, and that the fire and his death were just tragic accidents. After deliberating for nearly 7.5 hours, the jury finally returned with a unanimous verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree felony murder.
Members of the jury, listen to your verdict as recorded. In regards to count 1, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Count 2, guilty of first-degree felony murder. Is this the verdict of the foreperson?
Yes, it is.
Is this the verdict of the jury?
Yes, it is.
Before sentencing, Todd's mother and sister delivered emotional and scathing victim impact statements.
I love and miss Todd every day. He was a wonderful son, brother, and father to his 3 sons. It breaks my heart that he didn't live to see what wonderful young men and fathers his sons have become. He would have loved being a grandfather to his 6 grandchildren. Every time I see them, I see him smiling.
Todd was my brother, and I've been really conflicted about whether I wanted to speak today on his behalf or on all our family's behalf. Because nothing I say is really ever going to change. Todd's still going to be gone. Our lives are still never going to feel complete again. The hole of him not being here will never be filled. But not speaking or not sharing some of my outrage and pain over his death, not correcting the image that has been painted of Todd, doesn't seem right either. When Linda was let out of prison in 2018, our whole family was in shock. It was incomprehensible to us. These last 6 years that Linda has been out living her life shook my faith in the law and in justice and in all that is right. It's been so hard having to listen to her lies and having her play the victim in this. And every single time I hear her speak, I just think, who's checking that? Who knows? Who's paying attention to what is real and what is not real? Because she's lied so much that it's hard to keep straight. I think if anyone's learned anything at this point, is that Linda is incapable of telling the truth. So I'd like people to know that my brother, Todd, was not an awful person. He was definitely not the abusive control freak Linda and her lawyers tried to make him out to be. He was a good guy. He He had a great sense of humor. He was kind and funny. He cared about his community and his family and his friends. He was always there if you needed him. They say if you want to know what a guy is really like, watch how he treats his mother. There wasn't anything Todd wouldn't do for Mom. He fully intended to build Mom a place on his property when she was older so he could take care of her. And I have no doubt that he would have done that. He wasn't afraid to show emotions or cry, but he was one of the toughest people I knew. And it would have broke his heart to know that his death ended his son's childhoods and altered all our lives forever. One of the biggest heartbreaks for me to this day is that it's difficult to talk about Todd without talking about how he died. And there is no question that he suffered an excruciating and painful death. There wasn't one person who was there that day who didn't have a hard time talking about his injuries. I can't help but think about what Todd must have been feeling that day he died. What a Herculean effort it took for him to escape that house, to put out the fire engulfing his body, only to have her deliberately run over him with that man. And still he hung on. He was that tough. He was trying so hard to live. And it absolutely kills me to know that hers was probably the last face he saw in this world. Linda's an evil person. She deserves no one's mercy. She should never have been given another trial or let out of prison to start with. And now that she has been found guilty twice of this crime, I hope she will finally go to prison for the rest of her life and we can be done with her. She doesn't deserve the hope of ever being free again. And while I'm normally a compassionate person, I have zero forgiveness in my heart for Linda. And I hope when death comes for her, I hope it is as painful and as agonizing as the one you put Todd through. You deserve it. You are an awful human being.
You lit your husband on fire and burned him alive. When he made it out of the house and you had a chance to reconsider your actions, you instead doubled down and ran him over with your car. I cannot fathom the suffering he endured in his last moments of life. And I cannot fathom the damage you've inflicted on Todd's family, his mother, his siblings, now your grown children, his grown children. You lured them out of the house using one of your many labyrinths of lies. They went to the mall and movie at your request, thinking you'd be discussing divorce details with your victim. And you didn't even allow them to say their customary goodbye to their father before you murdered him. But only a sentence of life without the possibility of parole can protect others from you and deter others from committing like conduct. And only a sentence of life without the possibility of parole can properly punish you for the heinous acts you've committed in burning your husband alive and in leaving your children with that imprint forever. The sentence of the court is life without the possibility of parole. Credit is 3,367 days.
We would like to express our sincere condolences to the Stermer family on their loss.